Good morning or good afternoon to everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Elevate Your Digital Commerce Platform with AI-Powered Search. My name is Justin Searler. I'm product marketing for Lucidworks, and I'm fortunate to be joined today by Richard Isaac, CEO of Real Decoy Consulting. Real Decoy is a great partner of ours. We work together to deliver digital commerce solutions. Richard, tell us a bit about you, your company, and what you do.
Perfect. Thank you for the introduction, Justin. So Real Decoy, we specialize in digital commerce search. We consider ourselves to be digital commerce search experts. And most of the work that we do revolves around digital transformation. And a lot of the topics associated with that will come up during our presentation today. But there's one little thing that I just wanted to clarify, because the term digital transformation is so loose and so overused. To us, competitive advantage today is all boils down to how quickly companies can read and act on signals of change within their customer base. And those that can read and act on those signals faster than their competitors are the ones that will win. And today in the webinar, we'll be looking at some of those examples.
Thanks, Richard. And this is me. Before we get into today's presentation, I want to encourage all attendees to send us questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. We're going to leave about 10 to 15 minutes at the end to answer as many of those questions as possible. So keep sending those in throughout the presentation. If we don't get to all the questions, we'll post a recording and summary tomorrow on our Lucidworks blog. And we'll include answers to questions that we maybe didn't get to on the call. So let's get started. Ask yourself this question. What if you could tailor the experience on your website to each and every shopper's wants and needs? That's hyper-personalization. Traditional personalization deploys profiling techniques to make assumptions about the user based on certain static traits that make them a member of a particular predetermined group. Hyper-personalization goes beyond using those static rules and profiles. It dynamically customizes the shopper experience based on many historical and real-time signals. And you'll hear the word signals a lot in this presentation. Hyper-personalized environments use AI and machine learning to adjust the shopping experience and make it uniquely personal. It predicts the shopper's intent and shows them the products they want exactly when they want them. And these hyper-personalized shopping experiences empower your customers, improving the KPIs that merchandisers care about, like add to cart, average order value, and click-through rates. Lucidworks Fusion's integrated machine learning takes on some of the tedious things that merchandisers don't enjoy doing, such as maintaining thousands of business rules. And this frees them to focus more attention on the areas where human intelligence and creativity should not be replaced by an algorithm or ML model. Here are just some of the many organizations that use Lucidworks Fusion for digital commerce to hyper-personalize digital commerce for their customers. And a couple of weeks ago, we were excited to learn that Forrester ranked us among the top 3 of 12 companies evaluated for its cognitive search wave. As you can see from the excerpt on the left from the wave report, the evaluation covered both use cases internal to a company, what we refer to as digital workplace at Lucidworks, and also companies providing better digital experiences to their customers through B2C and B2B e-commerce. Oops, sorry, I missed that. So Richard and I will talk about 3 categories of functionality that are essential to hyper-personalized digital commerce: search, browse, and curate. In the Lucidworks Fusion platform for AI-powered search, each of these areas is woven together with ML-enriched analytics that give you a 360-degree view of the customer shopping behavior, along with manual and algorithmic ways to continuously optimize the experience. Now I want to hand it over to you, Richard. You're the e-commerce expert. Tell us about the trends that you see.
So thanks, Justin. And I just have to excuse myself in advance. I am in a hotel room, so if there's background noise that happens, I'm sorry about that. So back to what Justin was talking about. I think this statement is very important. 95%. Oh, and I think 95% is actually low. More than 95% of money spent on customer acquisition fails to directly convert customers. So the research tells us that money invested in building loyalty, improving conversion rates, and growing average order value has a much higher return on investment than money spent on customer acquisition. Obviously, you need to have a balance between those two things. But most of the companies that we that we work with, when we start working with them, we find that they invest 80% of their budgets on, when they're looking at growing the revenue through their website, they invest 80% of their budget, if not more, on acquiring new customers, and only 20% of their budget on understanding and figuring out how to drive higher conversion rates from existing visitors, how to drive loyalty, and how to grow the size of the orders. The problem is that conversion rates on average have been stagnant for, say 15 years, right? Around the 3% mark. And I'm talking really industry averages. And so investing in customer growth is hard work. And a lot of companies choose to go down the path of customer acquisition instead because it seems easier. So my question is always, to these customers that we work with, are you measuring the ROI in each of these areas so that you can manage your spend appropriately? And it depends. There's a lot of, on a case by case basis. In certain cases, you might want to spend more or less in certain areas. But really, I mean, the average and the blend that we have seen success with is 30% being spent on new customer acquisition and 70% being spent on the areas of growing and improving conversion rates and customer loyalty. So when the CEO or the VP or whoever walks into the room and says, I want to grow revenue by 15% this year, the big question becomes, like, where do you spend your energy and your money in terms of growing that revenue? Is it on bringing more visitors to the website, or is it on converting more of the visitors that you already have? And the next slide, Justin, I think is very important. We found this piece of research which was surprising even to me. Increasing customer retention rates by 5% can increase profits by 25 to 95%, which really is a mind-boggling number, right? But the number of companies that we see that ignore trying to improve retention rates, or retention rates is a lower priority, would surprise you. So, Forrester tells us that 36% of U.S. online adults believe that retailers should offer them more personalized experiences. So if improving retention rates is important for you, then you need to be listening to the signals of change from the customers, from the market, which is saying we need more personalized experiences. And that ties back, Justin, to what you were talking about earlier, this concept of hyper-personalization and the importance of personalization when we're trying to improve all these numbers.
And Richard, what you just said really rang some bells for me. You were saying that folks are, on average, allocating their resources in some cases to the wrong thing and ignoring that retention. And this quote from McKinsey, it also follows in that vein. While many companies have scored a few modest successes with their personalization experiments and initiatives, few know how to do it on a large and consistent scale across all channels. So do you feel that the investment is a misalignment of priorities, or are people just they don't know how to provide that personalized experience, and so they're unable to invest at the level that they should. What do you think with the customers you're talking with?
Yeah, well, I think that's an excellent question, and a little bit later we're going to cover more details. But just to answer your question at a high level, Justin, I find that there's a few different cases that we see. One is technology and limitations are used as an excuse. You know, my e-commerce platform doesn't allow me to measure or have the analytics to be able to make those improvements, or it doesn't allow me to provide personalization. And an e-commerce replatforming project can be a very daunting task. And a little later, we're going to talk about how I feel about e-commerce replatforming. But you know, so that's one area. The second one is, it is harder work, generally speaking, to improve your conversion rates and loyalty numbers. It's much easier to drive new traffic to your website. So the combination of those two things, I find, are usually the drivers behind that.
Thanks for connecting the dots, Richard. So in the next couple of slides, I'm going to introduce Lucidworks Fusion, which is the platform that Lucidworks collaborates with Real Decoy to help customers deliver that type of personalized experiences. Lucidworks Fusion is the platform that we develop and support at Lucidworks, and our digital commerce solution on Fusion offers real-time, personally relevant search results, ML for product discovery and proactive recommendations, and query intent predictions at scale with humans in charge. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a few slides. So if you are beginning this process of walking down the path to provide a more personalized experience, some might consider building their own digital commerce platform from the ground up to offer that. At Lucidworks, we know that this is a very complex challenge because we began working on it 12 years ago. We began with a deep understanding of search and Apache Solr, which is the open source project for distributed search across big data. And we wrote code to ingest data generated by systems, humans, and applications. We've developed advanced functionality for indexing, clustering, classification, faceting, filtering, relevancy ranking, analytics, visualization, natural language processing, ranking, and boosting results. That's a lot. We've bundled it all into a digital commerce solution available with Lucidworks Fusion, and it works out of the box. Because we've already done the work and become the experts at delivering the solution to some of the world's largest e-commerce operations, some of those logos you saw a few slides ago, you can begin using Fusion without diverting time, attention, and money away from your core business. Instead, we say focus on your brand, your customers, and your revenue targets instead. And this is a simpler way of looking at what we offer for digital commerce. Lucidworks Fusion incorporates AI and machine learning throughout the platform to intelligently ingest, explore, and curate the data. When you ingest data into the Fusion platform, it uses ML to cluster, classify, and organize content so that it will be available for shopper queries. So that's I always get the question, why do you have Fusion AI twice? There's the AI on ingest at the beginning of the process, and then once queries come in, AI is invoked again to understand query intent and personalize results. On the right-hand side, Fusion App Studio allows teams to quickly create new personalized digital commerce experiences, potentially different experiences for different audiences. And Lucidworks Fusion makes the data accessible and connects shoppers to insights precisely at their moment of need. We designed our platform for the future of online shopping, similar to the moment described in a 2018 McKinsey article titled "No Customer Left Behind: How to Drive Growth by Putting Personalization at the Center of Your Marketing." That article said, personalization is ready for its close-up moment. Technology and customer expectations are converting to propel personalization, the process of using data to customize the timing, content, and design of every experience in real time, from a promise to a reality. And Real Decoy is one of our strong partners in helping convert that promise to a reality for the customers that we work with together. Okay, so let's get back to the three components for hyper-personalization of a digital commerce experience. And we'll start by discussing search on the far left. Of course, search is a critical component for digital commerce, and Lucidworks built its reputation as a driving force behind the Apache Solar open source project for searching big data of all sorts. The Lucidworks Fusion platform solves the challenge of personalized search at scale, delivering relevant search results without the shopper having to ask. And drilling down on that a little bit more, Search with Fusion provides a superior user experience, real-time indexing, hyper-personal relevance, and performance at scale. Richard, you talk with leading digital merchandisers every day. Tell us why search is so important to their success.
So one of the metrics that really surprises a lot of our customers when we start talking with them, and then they go back and look at their analytics and discover that this is accurate, is that 30% of website visitors start their website visit through the search box. And if you go to the next slide, I'll tell you why that matters. And when website search is used, conversion rates are almost double. Unfortunately, there is a tremendous drop-off after that first search experience. And by the way, I should say that these numbers are much higher, and the drop-off is much worse in B2B than it is in B2C. So, one of the things that you touched on, Justin, which I think is really important and needs to be understood, is that search is beyond the search box itself. So if a merchandiser or a e-commerce a company that's running an e-commerce program considers the search box to be the extent of the search experience, then they will probably be just fine using something like the open source Solar. It's just customers' expectations have gone well beyond that. The search box is only a component of the overall search experience. So when we look at relevance ranking, we look at type ahead, we look at the navigation and how that's modified, we look at custom landing pages that are triggered by certain search queries, we look at intelligence around predicting what the customer's intent is and providing the most relevant products to them. All of these things have an exceptionally high impact on conversion rates. And so when you look at search and when we talk about search, I think it's very important to understand that it's much more than just a search box, and it needs to be considered like the search experience, not just, and that's why I start using the term search experience, not just search box, right? And you'll hear the term findability a lot more these days because, again, companies are trying to help deliver the message that the search box is just a small component of the overall search experience. So when we tie it back to what I was talking about earlier, are you investing your money purely on driving new visitors to your website, or have you really looked at improving your conversion rates? A lot of times we find that the lowest hanging fruit for ROI is improved search experience. And we see sometimes uplift of doubling conversion rates just through an improved search experience. The flip side of that is if 30% of your visitors start their experience through the search box and that first result page that they see does not meet their expectation, typically speaking, they're gone. They will move on to do their research on a website that has a search experience that will meet their needs. And as we know, the bar is set pretty high now in terms of quality of search results and expected search experience.
That's excellent, Richard. And let me let's show an example from one of our Lucidworks customers, outdoor equipment retailer REI. You'll see some screenshots. Before I go to that, I want to remind everybody to send in questions in Q&A because we'll be queuing those up for answering at the end. So The Q&A is down at the bottom of your screen. It's the third or fourth link from the left, and bring those questions. And I see a couple coming in, but I always want to encourage folks to ask any question that comes to mind. So these are screenshots I took a few days ago in preparation for this webinar. This is REI. It's a Lucidworks customer. Suppose I'm drawn in by, I come to the homepage, and I'm drawn in by this photo on the homepage, thinking about getting out on the water, but maybe I'm into paddle boards. So I start, as Richard mentioned, like a lot of people do, from the search bar. And I type in paddle, and you can see I start typing in paddle boards. I'm not even getting to paddleboard yet, even though the site doesn't know very much about me at this point. AI immediately goes to work, and it tries to match products that REI offers to the intent that it predicts based on the page I'm on and the 6 letters that I've typed into the search box. So I can click on any of those suggestions, but let's suppose I just hit search on paddle, what I've already typed in. Here are some results for search on the word paddle, and that's pretty straightforward. Not everyone's a great speller, so let's suppose I type in P-A-D-L-E, not quite the right word, and shoppers use many synonyms sometimes to describe the same product. There aren't too many synonyms for paddle, but also there's a lot of misspellings. So if I type in P-A-D-L-E, even though I misspelled the word, Fusion employs an AI technique called head-tail analysis. And the head in this case is the correct spelling of paddle, P-A-D-D-L-E, and the tails are strings of letters that Fusion has learned over time based on many searches by many users to be equivalents. So the system knows that P-A-D-L-E is an equivalent. And it doesn't ask me, it doesn't tease me for misspelling. It just says, I think I know what you mean, and here are the results you're looking for. Now, I had a little fun, so I was trying to break it. I typed in P-A-T-T-L-E. Still, I'm on the right track. I can reverse order of the words. So if I type in board paddle, this was the closest I could get to a synonym for paddle. And again, notice that the results are slightly different than the results for P-A-D-L-E. That's a signal of how the system's learning. So again, that head-tail analysis, that query intent prediction, I'm not getting, sorry, we don't have what you're looking for. The system is trying to get me closer to what my intent is in this shopping experience. And I'm still getting pretty good results even when I type in board paddle. So suppose I remember a brand name that I like, and I type in Ace Tech, and I search for that directly. And I get results from that product. Now here, I've switched paradigms a little bit. In the original part, I maybe didn't have a very clear idea of what I was looking for. In the case of Ace Tech, I know how to spell it. I know that's the product I like. So this platform provides that flexibility, and when we get into the browsing, we'll even go more into that use case for shoppers that don't know exactly what they're looking for. And I was really trying to break it, so I searched for something that was horribly misspelled, A-S-E-T-E-C-H, no hyphen. And it's a search term that's very specific and horribly misspelled. And so, oh, did I go back? There we go. Sorry, I clicked the wrong way. And I finally broke it. So I don't get null results, but I got a bike lock or something. And even this is a signal that Fusion understands and can make use of, so that if enough people misspell the word in the same way, the system will start to learn that as a tail to Ace Tech or something else. Now, I intentionally chose something that was very specific and very poorly misspelled to try and see what would happen. Over time, those become parts of the algorithm, and so there's going to be fewer and fewer of these experiences where I'm way off base and not getting anything remotely like what I'm looking for. So to sum up on the search functionality and what we're offering with Lucidworks Fusion, we give shoppers what they want when they want it, and that's through delivering highly performant search at scale, and as I mentioned, built on Apache Solr and Spark with the AI interwoven through that. We increase add to cart by providing access to pertinent product information, and we enable teams to rapidly prototype relevant strategies by testing query strings and also using some A/B testing capabilities that are deeply ingrained within the platform. So now let's move to browse, and this is what I was mentioning before. I know I'm interested in a certain area. I don't know exactly the product name, maybe even the name of the category of product. This is where I want to touch back on what Richard was saying. When we talk about search, lowercase, it's a much bigger experience. It's not just a search box. It can involve things like faceting and clicking through products, things that you and I might not initially consider to be search, but it's still using the underlying search technology to accomplish those experiences. So in those cases, search, in the case of the search examples I was giving before, search works well when shoppers come to the site with a clear idea of what they want to buy. But modern digital commerce platforms also need to give shoppers that personalized browsing experience as they try to get a clear idea of what they want. And modern merchandisers must run, scale, and maintain ML models to provide that personalized recommendations and product browsing. In this area, again, we're offering that hyper-personalization. We're also providing navigation that's intelligently augmented with machine learning. And the third point is very important. When prospects of ours are looking at maybe other SaaS vendors that might help them with search or digital commerce solutions, a lot of cases, those vendors don't allow the companies to maintain their own data. In our case, with Lucidworks, you own the data. You can do with it as you please. And as those signals accumulate over time, that's value that accrues right back to your data and your company. Richard, let's transition to browsing now. Explain the different levels of personalization, because I'm shifting paradigms a little bit. We talked about search, we talked about browsing. There's different types of personalization implicit in that. Talk about the levels of personalization you see and how you talk to customers about what kind of personalization they need.
Yeah, no, it's a very important topic, and that's why we produced and published what you see in front of you here, which is the personalization maturity model. Now, what's interesting is when we first put this model together, the pinnacle of it, which is individualization, was something that only companies with massive budgets could do. But thanks to innovation, that's really changed over time. So when we look at this pyramid, it might be a little bit difficult to read, but we start at the bottom where we say there's no personalization at all, and then as you move up, there's more depth to personalization. So there's no personalization, and then we have customized search relevancy based on some data that we might have about where the person is visiting from or what language they're browsing in. The next, a little bit more sophisticated from that would be managed personalization, where we've developed segmentation of customers and targets, and based on those segments, we're saying, there's certain merchandising rules that will fire, or there's certain search relevancy that will take place. A little more sophisticated than that would be looking at someone's order history to make sure that we're making recommendations and being intelligent in what products we think they're looking for based on all of the other pieces of information that we have. And then at the peak of it all is what we call individualization, where we have some AI-powered platform that's helping you understand how each individual, not based on preset rules or preset segments receives the most accurate possible results, right? The most personalized experience of all. But all of this to be said, and we can spend an hour digging into this in more detail, so maybe one day we'll do a webinar specifically about this slide. But I think the biggest takeaway from this slide is understanding customer intent is at the foundation to all personalization activities. And understanding that intent is easier said than done. So for example, one of the examples I love to give is the customer intent of a B2C buyer as opposed to a B2B buyer is hugely different. Typically a B2B buyer is there on your website to do a job. They want to get in, they want to get out. They are not spending their own money, right? They're spending, their company's money. So all of our research says that loyalty in B2B is driven by far the most through ease of transaction, more than any other metric. In B2C, that's not necessarily the case, right? So understanding customer intent is very, very important in being able to drive any sort of personalization. And I just want to circle back here for a second, Justin, because we talked a little bit at the beginning of the presentation about re-platforming your e-commerce platform. Okay, so this is a personal opinion of mine, and I feel fairly strongly about it. Is that most companies that look at the technology as being the limiter or the reason why they're unable to provide personalization, and they look at their e-commerce platform and say, hey, you know what, we need to re-platform. And that is a 1-2 year project that costs a lot of money. I would argue that your money is better spent, at least from what I've seen, in terms of getting better return on your investment, by keeping an antiquated e-commerce platform and enriching it with an intelligent experience management interface like what Lucidworks provides, than it is to rip and replace your entire e-commerce platform in hopes of having a better customer experience with the new platform. See, in my view, the e-commerce capabilities are table stakes, and they are no longer a competitive advantage. The competitive advantage comes from your ability to leverage intelligent AI-powered search to provide a customer experience and to help improve all of the touch points we talked about in terms of improving your conversion goals, right? So I know I covered a lot of different things on this slide, but I just wanted to make sure we circle back about how I feel about re-platform.
That's great insight. Thanks a lot, Richard. And let's jump right for that. Still keeping in the browsing frame of mind, let's give another example. And here's a quick example of personalized browsing from the Bed Bath & Beyond site. So in this first shot, I'm on the home page, and I'm below the fold, and I'm seeing this area just for you and noticing the products that are recommended for me. Now, before I went here, I cleared my cache, cleared my cookies, so the site had no idea about me or any of my preferences. They didn't know me. And so Bed Bath & Beyond in that case recommends products just for me, even though it doesn't know anything about what I might like. Now watch how quickly that changes as I interact with the site. I type in Dyson, and again, type ahead, predictive. I'm given both common search terms that involve Dyson, images, and I decide I see one that catches my eye, so I go to the Dyson Cyclone V10 Motorhead cord-free stick vacuum and look at that, and then I come back to the home page and scroll down to Just For You, and suddenly it knows that at least it thinks I really like Dyson vacuum cleaners. Now, over time, that's where the signals come in. And this Just For You recommendations, in this case, I've just visited that one page and I've taught the site that I love nothing more than Dyson vacuums. The Just For You section reflects that based on 2 page visits. The more I and others interact with the site and the more signals Fusion has to train its recommendations, pretty soon, the Just For You section, in my case, will reflect my unique personal preferences. And then, again, getting back to some of that was search in the search box, but some of it is what I would classify more as a browsing experience. It's recommending products that I can click on and learn more about. And so to sum up on personalizing the shopper's browsing, Lucidworks Fusion leverages signals, like we were mentioning, to auto-classify, cluster, and tag new products so that that's always staying current with whatever your catalog is. It predicts user intent to optimize the cross-sell, upsell, and ATC metrics. And those personalized recommendations and relevancy boost loyalty and AOV. So now let's move to the third area, which is curation. And the curation challenge is really gracefully combining human and machine intelligence to maximize service and experience. We've talked a lot about AI and ML, but as far as Lucidworks Fusion is concerned, it's not the robot taking over from human beings. We really think of it as augmenting intelligence. So human beings, merchandisers, are always going to know more about human preferences and for the products they offer. But it's very hard to scale human beings to look at all browsing behavior, et cetera. So there's a really graceful combination that's possible so that the shoppers feel a human experience. And so what does that look like in terms of Fusion? Well, with the ability to curate the interaction between customers, data, and algorithms, merchandisers can use insights to optimize the customer journey. They can do manual relevancy tuning where necessary, and then the ML will allow for predictive merchandising automatically. Also, the merchandiser has some control over whether to accept or implement those recommendations as well. And so here's a quick example that I pulled up from another customer of ours. A quick example of a good curation experience. This is from O'Reilly Auto Parts. And in this case, I come in and it first asks me if it can personalize my experience based on my location. That's one level of personalizing, and I assent to that. So it now knows more or less where I am and can personalize the service based on that information. And then I start typing in map. Again, we're seeing those proactive recommendations. We see the search assisted by AI. I only typed in 3 letters, and O'Reilly gives me suggestions to help me find exactly what I need. So I see the results based on my 3-letter search term, and the site gives me another chance to curate my own experience by providing information on my car. That's the area, the gray box in the top middle of the screen. So I put in the specifics on my car, which happens to be a 2019 Chevy Bolt LT, and automatically the results adjust based on that information, personalizing to my car. Now, here's the fun thing. I go back to the home page, and I'm going to try another search. So now I'm interested in tires. When I come back, the system already knows my car, and so I don't have to reselect that. It's giving me tires that are the best options for the car that I happen to own. So the site remembers my make and model, retains the tire-related, and returns the tire-related products that are most relevant. Relevancy is really highlighted here. And it combines with other signals I've sent, such as my geographical location. The more those signals are incorporated in the platform, the more personalized that experience becomes for me. So going back to you, Richard, for a second, this experience probably combines some static business rules. I don't know the particulars behind the scenes here, but probably combines some static business rules with dynamic machine learning. And this type of curation is sophisticated on the back end, but may appear very simple and intuitive to the shopper. Why is that so important?
Yeah, and you know, the example that you gave, Justin, I think applied to, can be applied to pretty much any vertical, any sector, any product. Really what we're seeing as a trend, not just us as a company, but in all of the research that we've read and looked at, is that online buyers expect not only a fairly sophisticated amount of personalization, such as the example that you just gave, where if I've entered information about what I'm looking for once, don't make me enter it again every 3 clicks. And I'm sure everybody who's listening knows that there's a lot of websites that put you through that sort of frustration. But once they land on a product page, the buyers or the shoppers are expecting to view all of the information that they need to know about that product in the same place. And there's a lot of, our customers and your customers that are doing this really well in terms of providing the user or the customer with all of the possible information about that product in a single unified view. Right? So product content is more important than ever, and it needs to be used and it needs to be accurate in order to drive the level of personalization that you just showed, right? And so the right search solution can help you aggregate product data from multiple sources. And when I talk about sources, I talk about both conventional and unconventional data sources. And when I say unconventional, I mean data sources that don't necessarily live within your organization, but are accessible, publicly accessible, so that you can create a very full picture to the customer about what they're about to buy or what they're researching or looking at, right? And in fact, I think, I've got a couple of ideas about potential future webinars that we'll talk about later, but we could spend an entire webinar just talking about ways to enrich product data by bringing in information and content from alternative sources. Okay. And if you flip to the next slide, Justin, you'll see some, this is from Internet Retailing, where they looked at, when you look at your KPIs as a company, what are the KPIs that are driven the most by site search? And you'll see them here, right? And this ties back to something I talked about a little bit earlier, which is when you're looking at replatforming an e-commerce system, in some cases, that you're not moving the needle on these KPIs that are very important to your company, as much as investing in a proper and advanced search platform that creates that customer experience that we're talking about. So when we look at all of the examples that you provided today, Justin, the O'Reilly one, the Dyson one, understanding the product information and ingesting it will help educate the platform to be more intelligent and be more accurate in terms of the information that it provides, and it will help it provide deliver that level of personalization we're talking about. And at the same time, it will help the merchandiser have all of the information they need on hand to ensure that they're measuring and continuously improving the relevancy to provide the best possible conversion.
Excellent. And so to put a cap on that, to curate the experience and with by augmenting intelligence, that enables precise control of search and browse experience. You can refine the user experience through A/B testing of query pipelines and do a test, measure, respond type of practice to continuously improve that experience and the relevancy for the shoppers. And you can display the most relevant products to each shopper based on signals across all shoppers, not just the signals from an individual shopper, but like shoppers and what they clicked, what they searched for, what they clicked on, how they browsed. All of that experience is available to improve the individual experience of the next shopper to the website. And just a quick quote here from one of our customers at Lenovo, that has real business impact. And in this case, Mark Desormeaux from Lenovo, we've seen dramatic bumps in conversion rates, and some of our key success metrics for transactional revenue has seen a 50% increase since the migration. And I wanted to, you have probably a lot of conversations, Richard, with folks about improvement and what they're seeing. What type of ranges of jumps are you seeing when people are moving to an intelligent platform like Lucidworks Fusion? What can people expect?
You know, and I don't want to set a false expectation, but it's not unusual for us to see anywhere between 20 to 50% increases in conversion rates, which is a significant movement, right? You know, especially for companies that are doing, you know, over 10 million or, you know, some of our customers are doing $1 billion a year in their e-commerce platform. So when we're talking about moving the needle by 20 to 50% better conversion rate, the ROI becomes a very, very easy sell.
Fantastic. All right. Well, we're almost to Q&A, and I see some great questions coming in, so I'm excited to open that up and start asking you some of those questions, Richard. I did want to mention to folks, if you are interested in this topic, we're going to continue with a series of webinars. The first one that's scheduled already is 2 weeks from today. Mention Lucidworks leadership position in the cognitive search wave. The main author of that report, Mike Gualtieri, will be joining me 2 weeks from today to talk about our leadership position in that cognitive search wave, and also cognitive search's critical role in e-commerce. So you'll hear some of the same themes that we brought up today, but from an industry analyst that talks with, of course, hundreds of organizations that have these same concerns. Now, I do want to turn it back to you, Richard, because you mentioned we were riffing on a couple of ideas of future webinars that you and I might do. Tell us what those might be. And we are going to ask folks to give a quick vote. So you'll see something on the screen as Richard puts these ideas out. We'd love to hear from you whether that's something you'd be interested in or not.
Yeah, no, thanks, Justin. There's a couple of ideas that we were sort of brainstorming. One of them is, you know, a lot of the content that we see is specific to B2C, and grouping B2C and B2B into the same conversation, I believe, is doesn't do justice to the challenges that B2B organizations face when they're dealing with e-commerce and customer loyalty and the challenges of search. So one of the ideas was a more B2B centric webinar that talks about the challenges that are more specific to B2B. So it will take a few seconds to see what everyone thinks about that. And then the second idea was really around, you know, how do you enrich your product data through the use of, multiple data sources, right? I run a workshop that's 2 hours long that helps organizations sort of map out all the data sources they have access to, and then turn those data sources into real valuable product data. And you'd be surprised. I mean, most companies don't even realize that they're sitting on a gold mine of information and product data that they just don't know how to use. So we could do a webinar that's more focused on that topic as well.
All right, so we'll give folks a few seconds to give feedback on that idea also. All right, and as promised, so I'll click through the thank you slide really quickly, and we'll go to questions. I thank you for those who have already sent in questions. Let me start with one, Richard, and this one, I love this one. The question was, search relevance can be measured through precision, recall, MRR, etc. How do you measure accuracy of recommendations, or more like this, at the fine-grain level?
Yeah, and the answer is not a simple one, in my experience anyway. And maybe Justin, you have some insight too. But it really depends on how much time and how much effort is available to spend on these. One very effective way that we've seen this done is through recording of user sessions. And there's a lot of tools out there that allow you to record user sessions, where you can actually sit down and start looking through how people are seeing what is being recommended and trying to define it that way. that is very time consuming. And so, usually what I recommend is just looking at a more macro level. Are we moving the needle from what the KPIs are? The number of companies we talk to where I say, what is your conversion rate today? And they say, actually, we don't know how to measure it, is surprising, right? So let's look at the metrics, and then let's look at making sure that we run a conversion rate optimization program where we do A/B testing against, fine-tuning different bits and pieces of the algorithm so that the recommendations are different, and see where they convert better, right? So that would probably be the easier way to go about it. So I hope I answered the question.
And let me piggyback on that a little bit, because I didn't spend a lot of time on the built-in analytics capabilities of Lucidworks Fusion, but we do have really easy, intuitive dashboards for folks to, because the platform is generating so many signals and so much data. There's two ways that merchandising teams can use that. The first, which I think we've talked about quite a bit, is all those signals go back in to automatically improving accuracy of recommendations, precision, more like this, and that's validated based on whether those items get clicked or not over time. So there's that auto-tuning capability, but also merchandisers can look at the data in an easy-to-use dashboard and understand it visually as well. So both those capabilities exist side by side. Now, Richard, there are questions coming in. I think the idea of doing a B2B focused webinar was a popular one. Let's do a little teaser and just give us a sense, kind of interpreting a question that came in. What are the biggest differences that maybe the top 2 or 3 biggest differences you see between the needs of search in B2B versus search in B2C?
Yeah, I mean, it's a topic that I love. It's a topic that I very much love, because there's a lot of content that's being published right now that says, your B2B customers want the same experience that they have when they're dealing with, as a B2C customer. And I would say, there are aspects of that are true, but generally speaking, that is not the case from what we've seen, right? So I gave a few examples, but just to talk about it a little bit more. Generally speaking, a B2B buyer needs the lowest amount of friction possible during the buying process. Now, companies that do this successfully are able to balance ease of transaction to complete purchases with a B2C type experience to help upsell the customer on new products that maybe are not in their buying catalog. Because the challenges that B2B companies have are way more complex than B2C companies, specifically around multiple contracts and pricing and more complex catalogs and very technically savvy buyers who are getting younger, right? So one of the papers that I really love referring to is a paper that a Forrester analyst named Andy Hoare had put out called "Death of the B2B Salesperson," where he essentially talks about how self-service in B2B is becoming extremely important, right? So I mean, we can cover a lot on that topic, and I think it would make for a really good webinar.
I think we can say it's official. We will do that webinar, and we'll look for information on that in the second half of the year, so we'll get that on the calendar. Another question just came in. What instrumentation do you recommend putting on the website to capture signals? So this is me speaking again. We've talked about signals, what you do with them when they come into Fusion, but Richard, what are best practices around making sure you design a site for the ability to generate those signals that Fusion can use?
Yeah, and like one of the topics I always talk about is let's call it an area, which is marketing science, right? Do you have the analytics set up the right way so that you can capture all of that data that the audience is asking about, right? So your platform, the Lucidworks platform, the Fusion platform, has great analytics capabilities, and most companies are using their own analytics packages as well, right? So are they configured the right way so that you're tracking the right metrics? Between whatever analytics platform a company's using and then the search analytics that your platform provides, we find that we can capture 95%, if not more, of the data required to get the right analysis.
And I think we have time for one more. And it was around, I think this was about your personalization pyramid slide. I'm interpreting it. How do we determine what level of personalization we need? What questions should we be asking?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I saved the hardest part for last. You got 3 minutes.
And really, I'm very pragmatic about this, right? So I tell companies, you don't necessarily need to be doing individualization, right? So it is specific to the company, and it is a measure, and sometimes it's not an exact science, but it is a measure of how much should we invest, and what is the return on that investment? One of the examples I like to use, or the metaphors I like to use, is specifically around wine, right? So if you think of the personalization pyramid, the higher you go up that pyramid, the higher the cost is going to be. And the question is, what is the value that you're going to get back at different levels of personalization? And when you look at wine as an example, when you invest or buy a bottle of wine and you spend $10 as opposed to $30, there's going to be a significant improvement in the quality of the wine, I guarantee you, between a $10 to a $30 bottle. But then the question is there a significant enough improvement between a $30 bottle of wine and a $1,000 bottle of wine? I would say for most people, the answer is no. But for some people, the answer is yes. And personalization is very much the same way. For some companies, an investment in getting up to the level of true individualization is absolutely worth it. But, the best way to do this is to go step by step and to have the analytics to back it up as you're making these investments. So you don't need to try to overinvest and knock it out of the park and re-platform everything in hopes of reaching, the pinnacle of the pyramid. It's about benchmarking and understanding where you are, and then having a data-backed, analytics-backed approach to making improvements and seeing how those improvements result in moving your KPIs.
Well, now it is time for the thank you slide. I will first want to thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure talking with you for the last hour. I want to thank all the attendees for the excellent questions they sent in. And a reminder, look for the blog post tomorrow with summary of this if you want to share this with friends and colleagues. And also, please join us for the many e-commerce webinars that we have scheduled. The first one will be 2 weeks from today with Mike Gualtieri. And then I think we have decided on 2 more with you, Richard, that we'll schedule shortly. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.